My friend dared
Hey,
me to
you
ask
made
my
it.
neighbor out.
Hey, wouldn't miss
She
it.
said,
Come on
"Don't
in.
waste my
Thanks.
time," so I proved I would stay. The dare was supposed to be funny, the kind you laugh off while the sun is still high and the world feels harmless. It happened on a bright afternoon, when the sky was clean blue and the neighborhood felt unusually alive, and my friend leaned back in his chair with that crooked grin that always meant trouble. He pointed toward the window, toward the small yellow house across the street, and said I did not have the courage to ask my neighbor out. At that exact moment, my heart dropped, because courage was not the problem. Hope was. Before the story pulls you any deeper, pause for a second. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in people proving themselves through actions rather than words, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this survive because of hearts like yours. Her name was Mirella Vaughn, and she was the kind of person you noticed even when she tried to stay invisible. Every morning, in daylight, she left her house with purpose, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, shoulders squared as if she carried responsibilities heavier than most. She never rushed, never lingered. She lived next door for almost a year, and our interactions were limited to nods, polite smiles, and the shared silence of two people pretending not to be curious about each other. I knew nothing about her life, but I could feel the weight she carried. Some people move through daylight as if night never really leaves them. I was not brave by nature. My name is Rowan Hale, and I had learned early that expectations were dangerous things. I worked from home, lived simply, and avoided complications because complications tended to leave scars. But that afternoon, with the sun warming the pavement and my friend's laughter still hanging in the air, something inside me shifted. It was not romance. It was not even confidence. It was the quiet realization that regret hurts longer than rejection. When I walked across the street, every step felt louder than it should have. The neighborhood was alive with ordinary sounds, children playing, lawn sprinklers ticking, a dog barking somewhere down the block, but inside my chest, everything was too still. Mirella was outside, trimming a small plant near her porch, sunlight catching in her dark hair. She looked up when she sensed someone near, and the look in her eyes was sharp, guarded, as if she had already learned how people usually approached her. I asked her out in the simplest way possible, without charm or performance, because I had nothing clever to offer. What I received in return was not cruelty, but honesty, sharp and clean like cold water. She told me not to waste her time. There was no anger in her expression, only exhaustion, the kind that comes from too many empty promises and too many people who disappear when effort is required. She did not yell. She did not soften her words either. She simply returned to her plant, as if the moment was already over. I stood there longer than I should have, the afternoon sun pressing down, my pride bruised but strangely intact. Something about the way she said it did not feel like rejection alone. It felt like a boundary carved from disappointment. I realized then that Mirella was not pushing me away because she thought I was unworthy. She was pushing me away because she was tired of believing. I went back home, my friend already laughing, already apologizing, already calling it a joke. But it did not feel like a joke anymore. That night, as daylight faded and returned again the next morning, I kept thinking about her words. Do not waste my time. The phrase stayed with me, heavy but honest. And in that honesty, I found a strange challenge. Not to impress her, not to chase her, but to prove, quietly, that staying was something I knew how to do. The days that followed were ordinary on the surface. Daytime routines repeated themselves like clockwork. I worked, I cooked, I cleaned, I lived. But I also noticed more. I noticed that Mirella's trash cans were always taken out early. I noticed she left the house at the same time every morning, and returned just before sunset. I noticed how her posture changed when she thought no one was watching, how the strength slipped for just a second before she straightened again. I did not approach her again. Instead, I became present. When her mailbox door broke, I fixed it without a note. When a package was left out in the open, I moved it closer to her door before the afternoon heat could damage it. When her porch light flickered during the day, I replaced the bulb. I did these things without expecting thanks, without expecting recognition. I did them because proving you will stay does not require an audience. Weeks passed in daylight after daylight, and slowly, subtly, the air between us shifted. She began to notice. Not in words, but in glances. Not in smiles, but in pauses. One afternoon, as the sun hung high and shadows stretched lazily across the street, she stopped me while I was watering my plants. She did not thank me. She did not apologize. She simply asked why I kept helping. I told her the truth, plain and unpolished. I told her I understood time was precious, and I did not want to waste hers or mine. I told her staying did not always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it looked like consistency. Sometimes it looked like silence paired with effort. The words surprised even me, because I had never articulated them before. Morella listened without interrupting. Her face softened, just slightly, like ice beginning to crack under daylight warmth. She did not agree to anything. She did not promise anything. But she did not walk away either. That felt like progress. As weeks turned into months, daylight became our shared companion. We crossed paths in the mornings more often. Conversations started small, about weather, about work, about the quiet comfort of routine. Slowly, fragments of her life emerged. She had been engaged once, long ago, to someone who loved the idea of commitment more than the practice. She had learned the hard way that words were easy, presence was rare. She built walls not because she enjoyed solitude, but because rebuilding from ruins was exhausting. I listened more than I spoke. I learned that staying sometimes means holding space without trying to fill it. When she cancelled plans at the last minute, I did not pressure her. When she went quiet for days, I did not chase explanations. I remained. Not perfectly, not heroically, but honestly. There were days I doubted myself. Days when her distance felt like a verdict rather than a process. Days when my friend reminded me that I owed her nothing and could walk away with my dignity intact. But every time I considered leaving, I remembered the way she looked when she talked about disappointment. I remembered that not wasting time also meant not abandoning something meaningful at the first sign of difficulty. The turning point came on an ordinary afternoon, the kind you never expect to change your life. The sun was bright, the air warm, and Morella knocked on my door for the first time. She looked tired, but not guarded. She asked if we could talk. We sat outside, daylight wrapping around us, and she told me she noticed everything. The repairs. The patience. The way I never tried to rush her into comfort. She admitted that part of her had been waiting for the moment I would grow tired and disappear, because that was how these stories usually ended. I told her I was not staying to prove a point. I was staying because consistency had changed me too. In learning how to remain, I had learned how to be better. From that day on, something settled between us. Not fireworks. Not fantasy. But trust, slow and steady, built in daylight where shadows could not hide mistakes. We began spending more time together, cooking simple meals, walking the neighborhood, sharing silences that no longer felt heavy. Morella began to laugh more. Not the careful laugh she used in public, but the kind that escaped unexpectedly, surprising even her. I saw her shoulders relax. I saw the armor loosen. And she saw my flaws too. My impatience. My fear of being unnecessary. Staying did not make me perfect. It made me accountable. Love, I learned, is not proven in dramatic moments alone. It is proven on ordinary days, when the sun rises and you choose to show up again. When boredom, fear, and vulnerability all ask you to leave, and you decide not to. Near the end of this story, if these moments are touching something in you, if they remind you of someone who stayed or someone you wish had, please engage with this video. Like it, comment, share it with a heart that might need this reminder today. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Morella eventually told me that day I asked her out, she had already decided people were temporary. She said my mistake was not asking. It was assuming she needed convincing through words. What changed her mind was not persistence. It was presence. Before this story closes, here is a small request. Comment the word, stay, if you believe real love is shown through actions, not promises. Now, as I look back, everything that mattered happened in daylight. No dramatic storms. No midnight confessions. Just the quiet courage of choosing not to waste time by running from something real. My friend's dare became the moment I learned that staying is not about proving worth to someone else. It is about becoming the kind of person who knows their own. And sometimes, when someone says do not waste my time, what they are really asking is whether you are brave enough to stay when it would be easier to leave.